Hello everyone, this is going to be a short tutorial video on how to modify the display settings on your NanoVNA. So now you'll notice I have it set up with only two traces, both of which are reading off of channel 0. The first trace is the yellow, which is reading the logarithmic magnitude of my reflection coefficient, while the blue trace is measuring the Smith chart. But let's suppose, hypothetically, I don't like the log mag of my reflection coefficient. I want to see the standing wave ratio. So all you do is you tap the screen, and you'll see an option here that says Display, and then there's another option that says Trace. So what you want to do is tap the trace that you want to modify, and it may disable it. So what will happen is one tap will disable, another tap will enable again. But it also activates this trace. And you notice there's 0 base. So I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So at the moment, trace 0 is the active trace. So if I make any modifications, this is the trace that is going to be modified. So I'm going to tap back, and you'll see an option here that says Format. And I'm going to go down the list. You see there's a lot of options: log mag, phase, delay, Smith, SWR. So now it is going to update trace 0 to display the standing wave ratio of my channel 0 here. So just to sort of show you how this works, I have a pigtail with an antenna on it, which I'm going to screw in here. And you'll notice a pretty strong match around 400-ish megahertz, which is the resonant frequency for this antenna. And you can tell because the standing wave ratio is dropping somewhere very close to 1, whereas everywhere else it is infinity. Now let's suppose, hypothetically, I would like to add a third trace. So I'm going to go back. You see an option here that says Trace. I'm going to tap Trace 2. So again, there's 0 base, 0, 1, 2. Trace 2 is now activated. Now I type back, Format, and I want trace 2 to represent the logarithmic magnitude of my reflection coefficient. So you notice it modified the last trace that I selected. And you can again see how there's a dip in my standing wave ratio, and then a tiny little dip here on my reflection coefficient in the logarithmic magnitude to coincide with that. Now let's say I don't like my Smith chart here, so I want to deactivate it. So again, we'll just type back, trace 1. So you see one tap made this the active trace. The second tap will now deactivate it. So what I'd like to do now is turn trace 1 into a transmission coefficient into channel 1. So let's go ahead. We're going to activate it again. We're going to type back, and you see an option here that says channel 1 through. So now trace 2 is measuring a transmission coefficient. But you see it's a Smith chart, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense with a transmission coefficient. So I'm going to go back, type Format, and log mag. So obviously channel 1, however, is isolated. So all I see is a bunch of noise. So I have a second pigtail here with a second antenna that I'm going to plug into channel 1. Okay, so now I have two antennas, channel 0, channel 1. And you notice when I bring them close together, there is a strong transmission as indicated by the large spike in the blue trace. If I bring them far apart, then the transmission coefficient now dies out. So you notice if I cover this with my hand, nothing gets through. And if I just hold this other one in air, you see it is radiating, but nothing is getting into the other trace. Okay? And that is how you modify the display settings on your NanoVNA.